Superintendent, and for everyone who gathered here today. It's good to be back with y'all. I've been out. It's my first time out. My first time out of, back into life. And I'll tell you, it's...
Back in a little bit, we'll discuss that.
Well, real life has been happening. So real life has been happening. I just had a baby girl named Ava, and somehow I'm caught up in that. She shouldn't. In some ways, she shouldn't be here because her grandparents almost didn't make it, and yet somehow her grandfather Joshua and her grandmother Margaret, may her memory be a blessing, made it through. Margaret, who just passed away not that 2 weeks ago, I guess on the 21st, just after Ava was born, she went through the Holocaust in an attic. She hid for 2 years with her twin sister and her mom. And her dad, oddly, had actually fought for Hungary during the First World War. And that was the big favor of serving for your country, is you just get sent to a gulag and your family has to hide in an attic. And Joshua made it through Auschwitz and had serendipitous paths through Israel, fighting to make that country a nation once again, and then ending up in Los Angeles as immigrants in the 1970s. Like so many other people have come to Los Angeles. This story of where do you come from? A lot of people wanted to bury that past or move past it. You survived or made it out of the Armenian genocide, or you made it through the killing fields, or out of El Salvador in the 80s. People came to LA and came to California to make a new life. But Joshua was a plumber and lived down the street. Margaret took care of her family and this whole community. And somehow now Ava's here. And it's like, I don't know. That grit lives in so many Californians and is the heart of Los Angeles, and it's the heart of California. It's the heart of America, frankly, of who we are. We all come from somewhere. So today is like this moment about not letting history be dead, and we still have some survivors with us of the Holocaust. But I was just talking to Beth a second ago, and Joshua won't live forever. Renee Firestone won't live forever. These icons, these people we call on to say they're the teachers. How do we teach beyond that? How do we survive beyond the survivors? I think that's going to be the test in some way of not just this museum or Holocaust Museum LA or what ANC's doing, but this initiative that Governor's going to talk with you about to reanimate history and to find teachers who aren't afraid of something that's so hard to talk about, and to realize it's right next door. At Reseda High School that I represent, kid gets bullied for being Jewish, other kid dealing with, when bringing back ICE and intimidating Latino students. Their teachers didn't know what to do with this. When you get hit with an incident like that, it's a lot for a teacher or a principal to stand up and engage with that moment. And superintendent was just talking about it. It's like that's a lot to ask of a California school teacher of a California school. And yet if we can give them tools to deal with those incidents and to teach through them and to restore through them, not to discipline necessarily, not to say, oh, you're suspended or you said a bad thing, you're out, but actually, what are those words you're using? When you see the Camp Auschwitz on a sweatshirt on television storming the Capitol, what is Auschwitz? And 60% of millennials and younger don't even know what the term Auschwitz is. Claims Conference did a stunning study, and we think of ourselves as so progressive, and yet we are falling into ignorance through atrophy or apathy. It's hard to tell, but I think today is some breath of life into that. And for me, I want to shout out Mrs. Ikes, because that was my teacher in 8th grade who helped me through that moment. Getting bullied on the way to bar mitzvah, You know, not really understanding even what it is to be a Jew. I grew up in Malibu, went to Malibu High School. You think it's all perfect, and it is. And I had an amazing childhood. It is. It is. But what is it to be? What is it to be? Like to be called what I was called. To have a swastikas written on my backpack, and to realize that I come from somewhere. I met survivors when I was 13 years old, and it changed my life. And it made me want to be a leader. And how many other leaders are out there in Los Angeles and across California who are young people who are feeling isolated and just need that teacher and that support to unlock them. I hope that this group, this brain power, this leadership and beyond can reanimate that and let people know that they're not alone and that their stories matter and that their stories won't die with them. Governor, your fluency in these issues, your empathy, but also just, it's not talk. You're a brilliant speaker and a communicator, but you can do that and then move past the press conference, or you can actually build the infrastructure behind you. And the bridges this governor's building, these monuments to the past, these investments in the museums, investments in Department of Education, investments in the Attorney General's office and DOJ, building the infrastructure, that speaks loudly. So you're speaking very loudly today, an important time in our history. I on behalf of Ava, the survivor of the survivors, and all the survivors to come after that, thanks for keeping us alive.